Hello everybody, I got an opportunity to rent the new Perodua Alza over the holidays, and this is Perodua's people mover, and I use this vehicle for exactly that, for hauling the family around during the holidays. I was driving this vehicle for the past 2 weeks, and I want to share my experience from the driver's seat of the new Perodua Alza. This is not supposed to behave like a driver's car, but I still want to give my feedback as a driver of this car for the past 2 weeks. The steering is adjustable. You can move the steering up and down depending upon your preference. It does not offer front and back movement, but it is okay. I'm going to keep it at this position and leave it there. The air vents on the side can be moved only left and right. It cannot be moved up or down. The air vents in the center can be moved left and right and up and down depending upon the direction which you want the air to come. There is a cup holder here. Let's push it in. Base info unit in here, no screens whatsoever. This is a base variant of the car, but it still comes with a USB port over here if you want to have it. Let's tuck that away. The side mirrors and the rear view mirror offer good visibility. This being the base variant does not come with the 360-degree camera. The driver has to rely on the mirrors for doing the overtaking on the highways or reversing the car. These mirrors offer good amount of visibility for the driver. No complaints whatsoever. This is absolutely great. The distance between the gear lever and the steering, I think it's about 8 inches or so. It's very good, and I like it because I like to drive the car. When you're driving the car up the hill or down the hill in a manual mode, this movement for the driver between the gear lever and the steering is pretty easy. It's because this distance is fairly short. When you're in the manual mode and driving, you can easily move the hand back and forth between the gear lever and the steering, and that's a pretty good thing. There is good amount of thigh support for the driver and the passenger. Not only that, all the seats, the first and the second row seats, offers good amount of thigh support. The last row seats is meant for kids. It does not offer that amount of thigh support, but it is absolutely okay. It comes with a 12-volt charger. It can be used to charge your cell phones, like what I'm doing right now. There is a storage unit over here. You can use it to keep your cell phones, tissues, whatever small items. Handbrake is in the ideal position. No issues whatsoever. I like it the way it is. What did I miss? Yes, there is one more thing. The light adjustments, the ABS, traction control, all of that cluster is located in here. Turn signals, lights, wipers, everything standard and common. I'm not going to talk about that. And that's pretty much it from the driver's seat. Let's get moving. The mirrors offer good visibility. It's absolutely okay. This car has a length of 4,425 millimeter, close to 4.5 meter. Perodua says it has got a turning radius of 5 meter. This means that it can easily do this. Turns in very small area as far as the U-turn is concerned. Let's do that one more time. Perodua says 5 meter turning radius. So let's try that again. Yeah, you can easily do a U-turn in small areas. Let's do that one more time. No cars in the back or the front. Easy to do. Very short turning radius. Absolutely okay. It's perfect. So one thing which I want to call out for this car is that when it comes to a hard stop, the engine cuts off. The engine came from 1000 rpm to 0 rpm. Take the foot off the brake, it goes away and it starts automatically. When you start driving this car for about couple of days, you will get used to it. The green light on the dash shows that it's on the eco mode, which means that it sips fuel frugally. I think this car offers about 20 kilometer per liter or so. So that is a really good thing. The steering on this car is very light. It does not give you a lot of feedback like a sports car. This is an MPV. It's not designed to give you a lot of feedback, and if you're a lady or a person who do not want to stress out while driving this car, this steering nature will suit you. You will not get tired in driving this car over long distances without having to stop. Shocks on this car is soft, and it soaks up all the imperfections on the road pretty good. And the flip side of that, the body roll because of the soft shocks. When you're dealing with this car on a curb, you got to stick to the speed limit which is mentioned on the side of the road for safe driving. The soft shock does not give you a lot of confidence in this car when you are negotiating the turns or the curves. But this is an MPV, that's how it's supposed to behave. This car feels very stable at high speeds. When I say high speeds, I haven't driven this car above 150 kilometers per hour. The maximum which I have taken this car is about 130 to 140 kilometers per hour. And at that speed, the car is relatively stable in a straight line. But when you have to deal with curves or corners on the road, make sure that you dial that speed down. Because of the soft shocks, you can feel some amount of body roll on this car. So we are right now at about 120. Still feels very stable and planted, no problem whatsoever. I'm not going to push this car to 130 or 140, but I did get an opportunity to drive this car at that speed when I was traveling across Malaysia. So you probably have to take my word for it at this point of time. Let's merge onto this lane. You can see that I'm on the automatic mode on the left side, and you can see that the eco mode is there. Now watch when I'm moving away from the automatic mode to the manual mode. I'm going to move it from automatic mode to manual mode, just like that. That's all I did. I did not change the gear. The RPM gauge went up from about 1500 RPM to 3500 RPM. I'm going to change it back from the manual mode to automatic mode. See that? RPM gauge came down from 3500 RPM to about 1500 RPM. Let's change that again. On the manual mode, RPM gauge without changing a gear, right? Why is it like that? I'm not really sure, but it is what it is. This got 7 gears. Now we are going in the 7th gear in the manual mode. I hope you can see that. So I'm going to upshift now from 5th gear to 6th gear and upshift to the 7th gear. The thing which I want to call out in this car when you're doing the upshift and the downshift is that if you have ever driven a manual car, the natural movement of your hand when you are upshifting the gear. Upshifting the gear means that you're moving the gear from the third gear to fourth gear or fifth gear to sixth gear. This is your movement of your hand when you are upshifting the gear. Upshifting means that you're moving the gear up from third gear to fourth gear or fifth gear to sixth gear. This is the natural movement of your hand. But in this car, the gear setup is that this is your movement of your hand when you are going to upshift the gear. You're moving from sixth gear to fifth gear. This is the natural movement when you are downshifting the gear in a car. But in this one, when you are downshifting the gear, this is the movement. This is the moment when you are downshifting the gear. So I'm in the sixth gear, steep curve. I'm going to go to the fifth gear, and I'm going to go to the fourth gear, which is exactly opposite to any manual car or any other automatic car which I have driven and which I have failed to come in terms with. So this is my one and only and the biggest challenge with this car. I'm moving it back into the automatic. The eco mode light came back up. I'm going to change it to manual, and I'm going to upshift. It's in the sixth gear right now. So this is the upshifting movement in this car, which I cannot come in terms with because I have driven manual and I have driven sports cars in the past, and I often mess it up. When I wanted to do upshift, I will do downshift, and when I want to do downshift, I will do upshift in this car. If you have not driven a manual car and if you have not driven a sports car, you will not feel the difference. Maybe it's because I am using this car temporarily, I'm facing that issue. But if this is the only car which I'm going to drive, I probably will not have any issues whatsoever. When you are driving this car and a different car which offers a different upshift and downshift configuration, that's when you face a challenge. The similar challenge when you drive a Perodua car and a Proton. The Proton cars, the turn signal is on this side. So the Perodua cars, the turn signal is on the right side. So this is your turn signal. But on the Proton cars, the turn signal is on the left side. The Perodua cars, on the left side, you get the wiper controls and all of that. But in Proton, the wiper controls are on this side. So it kind of messes up with your head when you drive between a Proton Saga and a Perodua Myvi or Axia or whatever. This is a similar challenge I'm facing this car when I'm driving this car in a manual mode. If you are driving this car in an automatic mode, there is no challenges at all. It's absolutely not a deal breaker if you are getting used to it. But if you tend to change cars occasionally between your first car or a second car or whatnot, you may tend to get confused. That's all. When the car comes to a dead stop, engine will get shut down. And let's see that. The engine is running at 1000 RPM. Car come to a dead stop. Engine is shut down. The moment you lift your feet from the brake pedal, engine will kickstart again. Watch. Now the engine will stay running even if it is in full stop. That is something which a new driver will have to get used to. I got used to it pretty fast and I have no complaints whatsoever. Driving the family around in Malaysia, then the size of the family was a 6-member family, and this car did the job. There was no problem. We traveled all the way from KL to Ipoh to Penang to Alasatar, and we came back. There was no problem. Everybody was comfortable in the car. I'll recommend this car for a family of 6 or 7, this is a perfect car. And this is probably one of the most economical car in that particular range. Lowest variant goes out for 62,000 plus ringgit, and the top variant of the model probably goes out for 75,000 plus ringgit. The fuel economy which is offered by this car is really good. I think Perodua says that this car gives you a fuel economy of 20 to 22. If you drive this car sensibly, you will get the mileage or the fuel economy per liter what Perodua says you will get, and I can vouch for that. The distance between the gear lever and the steering is pretty good. You can easily move from the steering to the gear lever and back and forth, just like when you're driving a manual car. Everything is good as you want it to be. There is nothing which is excessive. There is nothing which is lesser than what you expect from this car. I feel the seat should have offered a little more support at the back. That's my driving experience and my feedback from the driver's seat on the new Perodua Alza.